Moore. Welcome inside the Crazy Ant Farm. How are you today?
I am excellent. I'm in the old quarantine land, but I'm good, healthy, happy, and safe.
There
So
you
yeah,
go.
thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. We are super pumped. I know the listeners are going to be pumped. We always get a huge response whenever we have anybody from the show on. Zoe's is a huge hit. We love it. The listeners love it. So we could not be more happy to talk to you today. And you have the dubious distinction. We have had many actors, actresses, producers, writers, directors, but you are our first choreographer. So we are super pumped.
Yes, this was amazing. I
Yes.
love this.
You take
Okay.
the title. You
That's
take the
right. You
title.
take the title. So, of course, we want to talk all about Zoe's, but what we like to do first is kind of introduce you a little bit to our listeners and kind of talk about the background, how you got into it, how you made the transition into the entertainment field, and all that kind of good stuff. So, how
Cool.
how did you get started? Did you always know you wanted to be a dancer? Was it always in the cards, or how'd that all come about?
Yeah, well, I am from a very, very small town in Colorado, Frisco, Colorado. It's a mountain ski town.
Mm.
And I was a psycho kid dancing everywhere. And luckily, there was this like amazing little local dance studio. And my mom saw the actual owner in the post office one day and said, I have this kid that will not stop dancing. And so my parents put me into the classes at the studio, and I just grew up loving that place so much. I was that kid that went in my first day and I just had felt like that's it. Like I found what I should be doing, which sounds so weird. I mean, I was like 8, but I just loved being in class. I loved the music. I loved moving. I loved the instruction, the challenge. And I ended up very quickly, like I think I started with tap and ballet.
Mm.
And before you knew it, a month later, I was already signed up for break dancing and belly dancing
Oh,
and
nice.
modern and jazz. I mean, I could not get enough. So
Wow.
I was at the studio 7 days a week, all day, every day.
Sure.
And yeah, I mean, it's odd because I think at a young age, I really knew that this is what I wanted to do. I didn't know maybe how you could do it,
Hmm.
but I knew that dance for me was that was it. Like I've never wanted to do anything else in my whole life. So
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I mean,
really.
yeah.
you can hear the
Yeah,
passion
the
in your
passion.
voice just talking about it. So that's amazing. So I like that you brought that up. Then let's talk about that. How do you? This is what I want to do. I'm passionate about it. I love every second of it. But like you said, you're not sure how can I do this? Or what do I do as a living for this? So how does that path come about? Where do you go after you're 8 and you decide this is your passion? Let's talk about how you move forward from there.
Well, I think what's interesting is, I come from a very supportive family. So my parents were in the arts. My mom and dad worked at a community theater. My mom was a director, and my dad was an actor. And so I understood, I think, at an early age that you could make a living or that you could spend your time doing something artistic. So that wasn't new.
Hmm.
But on the flip side, I was this kind of weird anomaly in my family where I was the only one who danced. And so in middle school, my mom and dad really looked for kind of outlets for me during the summer. So I would go to performing arts camps. And I went to this one in Steamboat Springs called Perry Mansfield. And I think at that point in my kind of dance education, I started to understand that there were people that were parts of companies and, different parts of the country that would come and teach us. So I was like, oh, cool. Like you can actually get paid to teach and choreograph and dance. In my small mind, I think that's where I was kind of first understood the idea of actually like this could be something that I could do past, just high school or whatever. And, I used to watch tons of the movies. I'm a kid of the 80s, so I just loved
Yes.
Footloose and Flashdance and like those films were so cool. And just to see these people dancing, I turned 18 and I just thought, oh, I'm going to LA.
There
I'm
you go.
stupid. I didn't know any better. I think it was like an ignorance of bliss thing, honestly. And I was at a dance studio my last couple years of high school in Denver. I would also train at my small studio, but I'd go to Denver, and I had this teacher that took us to LA for one summer, and I took classes at a professional studio in LA. And again, I think that just opened my brain up to like, oh, there's someone I just saw in that movie taking class with me.
Right.
Oh, okay. This is how you do this. And then, as any kid does, you just start to ask questions. And I knew that there weren't any college programs for what I wanted to do. I wanted to dance in film and television, and there were none, if very few. programs that that would offer that kind of training. So I moved to LA when I was 18 and just started dancing at professional studios. And you live in LA, so it's all about networking. You find people and you meet someone and you take class, and then that person asks you to assist here, and then before you know it, you're like, oh my God, I'm choreographing on So You Think. Like, how is that possible?
Absolutely. I love that. First of all, you've moved way up on my list of favorites because you're an 80s child. Me too.
Amazing.
80s rule. So I love that, though. There is no real path, so you make one. You go out there and say, this is how I'm going to do it. I got to find it. This is what I want to do, and you do it. I love that.
Yeah, for sure. I think with dance especially, and I don't know tons about where you guys come from, and I can't wait to learn more about you too, but I think it's one of those like weird paths that there's no right way, and a lot, especially with dance. I think concert dance, you can go to a very reputable school and that might open up some doors for you in companies. But as far as commercial dance, you just got to go and try it. And there's, on the job training. Same thing, I think, for Broadway. There's maybe some schools that you can go to that might help funnel you into the business. But also you just you go to New York and you audition and you figure it out. And you learn very quickly when you're a turd ball at an audition what you need to do to fix it,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Definitely. And talk about that a little bit, the auditioning process. Because, we have a lot of actors that come on and talk about their auditioning practice. But like for choreographers and for dancers trying to get into especially musicals like La La Land, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, is it like the same type of audition process? Do they have to go on the website and apply, or how does that work?
Well, what's interesting about LA, and I'm not as familiar with New York, so I can't really speak about that, but in LA, there are, there's dance agents and people that just like an actor would have. So as a choreographer and as a young dancer, you really look to those agencies to help get the information about an audition or to get information about an audition to dancers. So, for a while there, it was about, when I first went to LA, it was about looking in the trades. They would have, so much of that was like, oh, there's an audition today at 4, and you get that information through the trades.
Right.
But, the dance agency world has grown a lot in the last 20 years. So that's kind of like the first place that you go to. I'm represented by an agent. Most dancers in LA are that work professionally. And so you kind of, that's the through line. Now for La La Land, let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Definitely by far one of my favorite films of all time. The opening sequence is fantastic.
So good.
The moonlight dance is just brilliant. Everything about it. We just absolutely adored that film. So yeah, definitely let's talk about that. And another one I want to talk about too is Silver Linings Playbook, because the dance in there is as much a character as the rest of the characters. I thought played a pivotal role in that film. So what's the process like that? In that, how closely do you work with the director and the people to choose the music? Are you involved in the choosing of the music? Do they kind of come to you and say, this is what we're thinking, this is what we want to do? Or how does that whole process work?
Yeah, well, it's different for every job for sure. But for Silver Linings Playbook, that was my first film. Basically, that was my first film, especially it's a big film, actually.
Absolutely. I love it. For a first, that was a pretty bold move, right?
Epic.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And it was very weird how I got the job, because there was another choreographer that had been working with David Russell, the director, and it wasn't working out for timing, creative, whatever. Bottom line, he was let go. And I somehow got a call with him and later found out that the executive producer's wife was a fan of my work on So You Think. So that's kind of how that happened. They reached out to my agent. I got on this call with this director guy named David Russell, which thank God I was too ignorant to even know who he was, because I would have been so nervous to talk to him. And I had just seen The Fighter, which is one of my favorite films.
Right.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, I didn't connect that was him. I'm on this call with him. He's telling me about this crazy dance scene he wants to do in his next film. And somehow I got the job. Who knows? Flew to Philadelphia. And to say that I worked closely with David would be an understatement. I basically, ate, slept, breathed everything about Silver Linings for 3 months in Philly, and I can't tell you how many versions of that number. It was in the hundreds for sure.
Oh, wow.
Every day we were redoing different parts of it. And, David's process is very very organic and it's very of the moment. And when he knows he doesn't like it, he doesn't like it. He wants to scrap everything and start over. Or he might be like, I like that one move. I hate this song, So it was a very crazy, incredibly challenging and amazing process. And I worked very closely with him, and I'm so thankful for him and his time and that in that film. And first of all, the film was incredible.
Absolutely.
I also didn't even know. Like I think if I had, again, ignorance, if I had known how important that final scene was, oh my God. I mean, I probably never even would have called him back, but luckily I didn't really know. I kind of didn't understand the tone of the film. When I read the script, I was like, I don't really get this. And then, getting in there and creating it and working with Bradley and Jennifer, I mean, it was like, and David, I mean, he would just, for hours, guys. Like, I don't even know how to really explain this, but it was very closely aligned, and many versions of those songs cut together because, in that particular film, there were so many different songs that were a part of that. And, whereas then almost the direct opposite, but still very closely aligned with how I worked with the director, was Damien and La La Land. When I read the script, I was sent most of those demos from Damien and Justin, and they were in very beautiful shape at that point, like they were fully realized demos. So when I was reading the script and talking to Damien, I was working with a roadmap that pretty much already existed as far as the music.
Right.
So it was just about understanding where Damien wanted to go with the storytelling of the moment. And he's very clear about how he likes to shoot things too, which is a dream as a choreographer. Because, he basically tells you, I want the camera facing here and it's going to go like this. And you're like, great. Okay. I just have to fill in the frame, and I've got to make sure that it works.
So you block around his camera blocking then, right? Yeah. I mean, you choreograph to the way he wants to block the camera.
Yeah. In that particular film, yes, Damien's very visual. And so he sees in his mind when he's listening to the music, he knows, I want this to pull back for 10 seconds. And then we'll talk about, okay, well, what are you seeing in that frame? And it's like, well, I think I see something like this or that. And then I'll go, well, what about this? And, it's a really collaborative process in that way.
Right.
Because he's not a dancer and he's not a choreographer, but he really loves movement and timing and is actually a good dancer. He'll never admit that, but he is.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I was going to say, spending all the time with them and all the stuff that goes into it, the knowledge that each of you must learn from the other has got to be amazing. I mean, to be able to do that. Okay, so let's talk about it though, and you can spill the beans here. Nobody's listening. We promise. Shh. How were Bradley and Jen and Emma and Ryan? Could they dance? Could they not dance? Did they? I mean, did you have to beat them into shape? What went down there?
Well, there's always an element as a choreographer that you have to kind of beat people into shape for sure. Because it's like. You end up being this coach, therapist, I feel like I'm like a boot camp, Marine sergeant at times, and friend and peer, so it's a really cool process to get to create, especially with those kind of very high level actors that are at the top of their game. And, they're all four so different. So, it's funny. You really learn a lot about somebody when you're learning to dance together, because it's really vulnerable, and a lot of people have some very funny hangups about dance, but I don't know where it comes from. Maybe it's a middle school thing or something where someone told you can't dance or something. I don't know. It's a very odd thing, and luckily, and Silver Linings always has such a different film than La La Land. But what was kind of interesting about both those films is that, none of those characters were supposed to be perfect dancers. They were supposed to be humans in this moment. And it was really neat to create from that space and realize we weren't trying to hit a perfection as far as maybe a line or a transition or a texture, but really get to the root of the intention of the movement and the moment and the emotion and create from that. And you can't ask for better people to do that with than great actors, because they're all about that. It's all about, what the story is, what the intention is, what the moment is. And I'm not even really going to spill any beans, because I worked so hard and so hard on himself. And then Jen was like, good luck for you. Good luck. You're going to try and get me to dance. And I was like, oh, sister, we are. And we would have the best time. And she, her character was so brilliant in that film, and just kind of a mess. And the way she played that final scene when she does the lift and she's like on top of him.
Absolutely.
And like, it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And that's all her, she's so good. And then, Emma is hysterically like particular. And then Ryan would be like, I didn't quite get that, but then really wants to practice it. So yeah, just their little personalities were so fun. And what they all had in common is they wanted to work. They wanted to do it, and get in rehearsal, which was great.
Awesome. And we should mention before we transition into to the biggie that we want to talk about, of course. I mean, you also have done choreography for the Oscars, Golden Globes, Emmys. You're an Emmy winner yourself, so congratulations on that.
Thank you.
What's that like? I mean, that's got to be a lot of pressure, right? It's like the most people watching ever, and you have these big, huge dance numbers.
How much practice does it take? Like, how long do you get to have to rehearse?
Well, for the Oscars, what was really cool is that, well, first of all, my dear friend Raj Kapoor was a co-EP on the show, and he is a choreographer dancer, and so it was really nice to have somebody on the production side that understands dance, because sometimes there are people that are whole productions that no one really understands, like the craft and like what it takes. And thank God he knows that, you can't throw something together in 3 hours and get it on television. So, we had some really beautiful time for the Oscars, the La La Land performance on the Oscars. We had, I want to say 3 8-hour days, which is amazing. And the nice thing is, like, I'm so closely aligned with La La Land. So, I had a little bit of a leg up.
Yeah.
I know it back and forth, and kind of have like a, direct line to Damien and so Justin. So that was really nice. And I just wanted to make something, and we, as the production for Oscars too, just wanted to make something that celebrated the film because it was such a huge film that year. And, the 2 songs that they actually chose to put in there didn't originally have dance in them.
Oh.
And so it was nice to like find a world that kind of, we almost created, like, I guess I'd call it a dream ballet for La La Land, just to show kind of all the elements that everyone would love and remember. And it was a huge moment, not only for me personally to be able to do that, but also just for the community of dance, and we hired, I think, over 100 dancers from the LA area in La La Land originally. And, being on the Oscars, those dancers that got to be on the Oscars, I think it was like 30 of them. It was like a huge moment.
Definitely.
We don't always get to do stuff like that. So it was really cool.
Wow, that's okay. So how does Zoe's come in? Does Austin call you? Do you call Austin and be like, I got to be on this show?
Right,
because we talk about this all the time, but it's so unbelievably brilliant and original, and like nothing that it has been done before in this type of a way, So the second we saw it, we were like, wow, this is going to be huge. This is going to grab on. How does that even work? Like I said, did he call you up and say, I've got this idea, and you were like, yes, or how's that go down?
It's actually, well, first of all, thank you for being such fans and saying what you just said, because we have really tried to make this a unique show, and I just makes me so happy that people are getting it. So thank you. It's a funny story, and I'll tell the short version. Basically, I was at a lunch. I was invited to a lunch for another project, and Austin was also invited. We were having another, and I didn't know Austin was Austin. I'll get there in a second. But I went to this lunch. This guy, Austin, was invited as well as a writer to possibly work on this other project. Go into the lunch. Austin's like, hey, Mandy. I was like, hi. He was like, hey, I was in the wedding party for that dance you created for my best friends like 10, 15 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Cut to, yes. I was in my first year or so, you think, this woman at Fox had really good friends that were fans of the show, blah, 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 wanted their first dance choreographed by me. I was like, okay, cool, whatever. I don't have anything else going on. And did that. Austin was in it.
Oh, wow. My goodness.
It's so crazy. Then cut to 10, 15 years later, and we're at this lunch. We reconnect. I remember his face. I was like, oh, yeah, you were a rascal. I remember you were a complete rascal on that number. And we said goodbye, exchanged numbers, and about a week later, he sent me the script for the pilot, and he said that it looked like this pilot was going to get picked up. Would I read the script? Would I be interested in being involved? Of course, I read the script, and immediately I just thought, this is magic. I love this. I see this world immediately. I love his writing. I love that it's a comedy and drama, and it's got dance and performance and songs with real humans. Like I was already in. And so I called him back and I said, yeah, I would love to. And he's like, great, you have the job. I was like, oh God, what do I do now? Yeah. So that's kind of how it all started.
That's fair. Well, we have to say both Austin and Andrew spoke so highly of you and the
Yes.
importance of you to the show and your contribution, week in and week out. And we couldn't agree more, obviously.
Thank you.
Especially that the dance routine with the deaf dancers and the
Oh.
performance there, that was absolutely phenomenal.
It was brilliant.
I mean, just
I haven't seen anything like that before on television or
No.
ever, honestly.
True.
Aw.
I mean, no, my
Thanks.
nickname is the Mouth, and I was speechless.
Yeah.
I couldn't even say anything. Like I was like, wow. So let's talk about that process too. A little. You brought it up a little bit earlier, and I think it plays really heavily into Zoe. She said, about dance that there's a vulnerability, and I would even say an intimacy. That when you dance. So with this storyline and the character going on and everything that's happening in Zoe's life, how do you approach each number? I mean, do you work closely with Austin on the song selection, or do you go to him and say, I have this idea for this and this is what I want to do, and can we get this song? Or how? Because he kind of talked about how you guys clear the songs and everything, but how does it all come together? Do you work together to say, let's do this dance routine, it should be this song, or how does that all come in? Because I just think that the routines and the songs are so perfect for each sequence.
Yeah,
it's
they are.
amazing.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, first I'll say that I've never met anyone that I have worked with thus far in my career that I feel so closely aligned with than Austin. Because there's just something that he and I share, kind of the same creative brain, and we are very aligned tonally and how we see dance, how kind of also the music we like, and the stories we like to tell. So that we'll say that number one, I think, 90% of it is just because he and I are kind of the same creative brain. It's very weird. I don't know how that happened. He's like a brother from another mother. Like, I don't know how that happened, but he, from early on, I credit him with understanding the importance of involving someone like me, if it was me or another choreographer, in the creative kind of groundwork of everything, because then I'm able to do my job a lot easier. I'm not guessing because I'm in on those kind of ground floor creative discussions. And he, I don't say that most of the time I come up with any music. Every once in a while he'll like text me and say, hey, I need a song for Leaf or something, and I'll suggest something. But
Right.
He and the writers are so good, and they're like the way that he loves music. Also, he's got a really great ear for just good tunes that everybody knows and loves. Like he's a kid of the 80s like we are too. So
Yes.
I think his musical sensibility is really, really fine-tuned, and I think really good. So he will put a lot of the songs into the outline and send me an outline very early. And then he and I will get on these phone conversations, or we'll do in person, and we kind of call them like dance concept meetings.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll just kind of word vomit out everything he thinks about something with a song, and a performance, something he sees, and that ignites something in my brain, and then I word vomit back at him, and we just have this collaboration where we'll go like, well, I think it's kind of this is a very intimate number. I want to feel this from the number. I always ask him, what do you want to feel? Because that's a big one for me, is
Definitely.
like, how is it, am I supposed to kind of giggle at this? Am I supposed to feel sad at the end of this? And then from understanding those like big emotional picture kind of moments, I can then start to figure out the vocabulary for the steps, and then starts my creative process. Basically, once I've extracted all information from Austin, then I go away and I just kind of marinate and go through a very ugly creative process, like most creative processes are. And then all of a sudden I like birth or like create this thing, and I'll send it back to him for notes, and then starts then that next little process of tweaking and making sure that it serves the story and that it's tonally right, and and then once we've kind of all agreed on what it is, then I teach the actors, and then once we teach the actors, it's go time. We go.
So good. And I mean, the dancing in itself, like the music is its own character, and the dancing is also its own character, I feel like. Especially it brings out so much emotion in these characters. So you're doing a phenomenal job. I love every second that I'm watching this show.
I mean, it's
Thank
true.
you.
We literally have conversations afterwards. Like talked at least a half hour about the Billy Joel,
Yeah.
with Skylar and Jane with the Billy Joel. So yeah, I mean, that was so good. And then, okay, and I'm just gonna say it. Was it or was it not? At least in my mind, it was the crawl by Zoe across the floor in the very intimate, Dirty Dancing inspired, because that was very baby. That was very baby crawling along the floor, right?
For sure. Of course.
Come
We
on.
know that's a great film. And
And 80s, and
yes.
So-
Well, and also it's so funny that things are born out of like necessity, right? Because
Right.
honestly, she's on the other side of the room and I need to get her over to Simon. So like, what is she going to do? Some big knee slide? Like,
Right.
it's like, oh, she needs to crawl for sure. And she was like feeling that, so I loved it.
And another of our favorites, we have to bring it up. We totally made fun of Andrew. We had a great time with Andrew about it. Is when David and Alice, and she's wanting something, and he's oblivious.
Yes.
What a
Not
great
even looking,
scene that was! Oh.
So good.
She was so good too, and like I remember Andrew like trying to keep a straight face while of his head. She's like booty popping behind.
Yeah.
him.
That's
Yeah,
exactly
I
what
just
we.
love her.
Yeah, that's exactly what we told him too. Is like how you kept a straight face with that going on behind you, and Jane doing those faces in front of you. That was brilliant. I'm just like, I don't even have a clue how you kept it together. But so what?
Yeah,
and let me ask you, because for me, we talk about. And I think Logan too. I don't know, but for me, the family dynamic is my favorite part of the show. Whenever the family is together, especially Peter and Mary, I just think they're absolutely brilliant. And some of those scenes, the choreography in those scenes are just you bring a tear to your eye. Do you have one that's been the most challenging for you? A sequence that you were just like driven to get right that was difficult, or what?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we ended up doing 61 numbers over the season.
Wow.
So like, yes. And now when I'm thinking back and kind of being able to watch them and with everybody else now, it's been really nice to like, oh, I remember that number back when I was tearing my hair out. The episode 8 with Zoe when she has her glitch, the crazy number was really difficult to understand tonally where we wanted to go with that one. So I would say that one was complex. It's never about steps for me until the very last moments, and then I create steps. It's always about trying to figure out emotion, tone, narrative, story, timing, tempo, cadence, feel. All those kinds of things that don't necessarily involve steps, and that particular scene was tough because I didn't want it to feel like help in the beginning. I didn't want it to feel like I got the music in me where she's Pied Piper and everyone's dancing with her. And the big thing was like, how do I physicalize crazy without it looking like a caricature?
Right.
What is crazy? Like the way you may think crazy looks on somebody may be totally different than the way I think about it. And are we going like banging your head against the wall crazy? Or are we I'm going crazy in my own skin? Or is it just crazy because it feels off a little? And so that's kind of where we ended up going. But that one was really tough. And ended up being one of my favorite numbers, honestly, when we actually cracked the code. I really loved that number. And then I think there's one coming up in episode 11, and I don't want to give it away because I want you guys to be able to see it kind of for what it is. But there was one with Maggie and David and Zoe, and there's another group of kind of dancers that are around them, and it was a tough nut to crack. I'm not gonna lie. So I think it turned out really good actually, but it was again just tonally, and I guess that's the thing I love about Zoe is like it tonally dance lives in such different ways, even within each episode. It's last episode you had Sound of Silence, which had hardly any dance, but there's movement and timing.
Right.
Then you had the ASL number, which totally a different world that you would normally live in. You have Buttons from Emily, where it's like kind of funny, but also you're like, go get it, girl.
Yeah.
Right? And then you have Happier, where it's like a contemporary duet between these two people. I mean, I just love that it can go so many different ways within an episode.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny you brought up the word storytelling. Has that always been your approach? Is that something you've kind of gravitated to, working so closely with directors in the past, that you've kind of like incorporated that into your process, or was that something is that how you always approached it?
I found that as I've gotten further into my career, it's more and more important to me. I think as a young choreographer, I probably always subconsciously needed to answer, who, what, where, when, why. Like I needed to know what the story was, but maybe would have got lost in steps a little bit more than, now I can't create a single step until I know what we're doing. So for me, it's a lot more storytelling based. And I find that it's a lot more challenging than just coming up with steps that don't mean anything. But at the same time, I think you end up getting performances that feel very unique and of the moment and serve the story, which is, your job when you're in episodic. You have to serve the story. And, to be able to do that with dance is like, man, it is so fun, you guys. Holy smokes.
It's inspired me to dance. I want to get up right now. Like, honestly.
Good.
Yeah, no. The question is, can you teach? Because I cannot dance. I so want to ballroom dance, and I know I would get out there and just be a disaster. So I don't know. But
I think you would be great. And I do believe you can teach anybody how to dance. It just takes people different time frames, It's
Definitely.
Okay. We could do it.
There you okay. I'm gonna take you up on that. When I get back out there, it's gonna be like, okay, Mandy is gonna teach me to dance. It's gonna be great. Is there some challenging dancers with your cast? First of all, let me just say the cast is absolutely phenomenal from start to finish, and they all look like they've been dancing forever.
Yeah,
so kudos to you on that, because they all look like they're just like, oh no, I picked it up from birth. I've been able to dance forever. So it's like it's absolutely brilliant. Did you find some challenges? Were there some that were like, oof, I don't know, and then others that were just naturally gifted, or how's that?
Well, when we started, I learned this in La La Land and in Silver Linings, honestly. I've always been of the mindset that if I can get the team, the cast, to enjoy dance and love it, they've let a lot of their inhibitions out the door. And so I really try to create a space that is very like open, trusting, fun, like so that they can really get vulnerable, like we talked about, because dance is, and you can immediately feel, it's just like if you're singing, you hit a weird note and you go like, ooh, and you kind of like don't want to sing anymore.
Right.
People feel like that with dance. Like as soon as they feel awkward or they think a line looks weird, they shut themselves off. So a huge part of my world is just trying to make sure that it feels like a very enjoyable space to create and learn. And then it's really down to coaching. I know it sounds so weird, but I also don't fight the feeling. I got to be honest. Like I create on them. So if they feel like they want to go to the right instead of the left, I'm not going to spend my time drilling them to go to the right instead of the left. I kind of pick my battles with things, and I really try as a creator to find each and every person's way of moving. Because then it is like the perfect collaboration. It's not about the way I move. It's about the way that this character moves. How does Joan move? How does Joan move through the space when she's feeling this thing? And, being able to create alongside these actors, like I said, it's just, that's when you get the magic. It's not when I go in and just dictate it has to be this, that, or this,
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I just, again, speechless. The whole collaborative effort is just amazing. I got to tell you. And we can't let you off the hook. We've been asking everybody this, and we need to know. Yeah. Team Max or Team Simon?
Oh, shoot. This is the thing, man. It's like, okay. So, I mean, on like the part of me that like feels, I just love, okay, shit, you guys, I can't say it, okay? Because I really love them both so much, and I love them for different reasons. And I have to say, I was Team Max until episode 5, when Simon did Should I Stay or Should I Go? And then I was like, so hot. Sure, Team Simon.
Bringing the sex appeal.
That's right.
Oh my gosh. I was like, he looks so good. And like their chemistry was so awesome. I was like, oh, shoot, I might be Team Simon. But then I was like, Simon, you need to get your stuff together. Sorry, I'm back to Team Max. So that's where it is for me.
All right. So she's a flopper, but that's okay. We totally get it.
Fine.
I mean, come on.
I mean, even the part of me that wants to dislike Simon, I still really like him as a character, and he's just trying to figure everything out.
That's
really,
right.
Especially in like such a delicate time. Oh yeah, it's crazy.
Gosh. If Mo can't dislike him, then nobody can.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I mean,
Mo is the end all be all. Like, come on now. Oh my goodness. But I want to know about your creative process a little bit. How does that go? When you get the music, do you just kind of like start to dance it out, or do you put the pen to paper, try to write out the movements? How does that work?
I definitely, I'm more of a thinker, kind of heady creative person first, and then I physicalize. And I find that I have to bounce back and forth between those things many times within the creative process. So yeah, when I listen to music or I get an outline, I marinate in my brain forever, like probably obsessively. I have to know every accent, every count, every feel that, I really try to understand what I feel when I listen to the music. And then I just like throw all of that out the door and dance. And like I try to just come up with movement that can be the language and the vocabulary for the dance. And then I'll look at that with my team and we'll kind of dissect it and go like, oh, that's a cool move. Maybe we could build. I have this weird way of like building whole numbers off of one move because I kind of have to find like the signature thing. And then I can, from that, expand upon that idea. And, like I said, I just go back and forth. Like there's times where I have to bar out the song and I really think and I sit and I ponder and I hem and I haw. And then I just get up and start dancing just like you would think I would. And then there's times where I just have to sit back down, So it kind of goes back and forth for sure.
Interesting. Okay, so I have a question too, because we're both this way. And I'm curious, from talking to you, I feel like you are too. How do you balance being a perfectionist and the passion?
Yeah.
Because that's the hardest thing that I have, and I know Logan has when we're talking and collaborating on projects and stuff. We're both perfectionists, so we want to think it and overthink it and redo it. But then we're so passionate, we'll just go with the creative side of it. Is that a tough challenge to balance, especially in what you do?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think, yes. Any of us that are perfectionists, we know each other. We can see each other a mile away. And I learned a while ago, and this probably started on So You Think, because I would obsess about how my number did, or if it was the right choreography, or if I taught it right, or if they performed it right, and I found that I would just get in these holes. Like it's like a spiraling down where it's like you can't see it for really what it was, which is a moment in time. It's a creative thing that was made that was never there before. Like you just created something. So I learned a long time ago to just step away, like trust myself, to like really get in there and like fight the fight all the way up to the point it's shot. And then as soon as it's shot, I gotta let it go, because that's all, of course I could watch every single thing I've ever created and be so critical of it. But then at some point you just have to be like, okay, well, that's what I did. I did my very best, and I made it from the most authentic place I could possibly have made it from. So that's all I can do. I can't do anything else.
Exactly.
There's no formula.
Yeah, it's exactly, and you win an Emmy, but you're still your own worst critique, right? Because it's like, no,
sure.
That was awful. I could have done this or that, but everybody else says award winning.
For sure.
One more question before we get to wrap it up here, but executive producer, how are you liking that role? Are you liking that side of it? Because it's sometimes difficult also to balance, creative and suit. Do you like that side of it?
I love producing, and this is going to sound so weird probably, but I just like being able to be on the ground floor, and I like not having to. I don't do well when people that don't know what I do tell me how to do my job.
Yes.
So,
we understand.
You know how it goes, and I started producing on Dancing with the Stars live television, and that. For me, I really liked being able to use both sides of my brain, because I'm also very odd that I like the organization and the kind of like cleanliness and the over big picture stuff of producing. But then I really like on the flip side to just be like, oh, I'm a creator. Oh, this is what I feel. And then being a choreographer and being able to be in I always call it like at the table, like being able to be at the table with the people that are making the thing that you're involved with, instead of just in the 11th hour being given something to make.
Right.
I just love doing that. And I love, having to be critical and observe and use kind of those other, I guess, ways of thinking that is just so different than when I'm in a room creating or coaching or teaching dance. I do like to worry about budgets and talk about how we're going to do something, or, we don't have the money for that, but can we be creative and try this? And, I just think it's a really fun place to be as a creator, because you're also you have a little bit more, I don't know if it's power, but you just have more input into the overall picture, So I love it.
Wow, great answer. Seriously. You fit right in. You could just step right up into the crazy ant farm and be here forever.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
like, you are clearly in our mold.
Yeah.
Yes. I love this, guys. As soon as the quarantine thing lifts, we gotta meet up. For sure.
Absolutely, man.
Definitely. I gotta say, this has definitely been one of the more entertaining, fun conversations that we've had in a while.
Absolutely.
Oh, good.
We love
Awesome.
people who share the passion and just love what they do and are all about it. And it's fantastic. So we do have a lot of listeners that are up and comers in the business or trying to get into the industry. So I always like to have our guests give some advice, pass along a little bit of advice for people trying to get into the industry and maybe some pitfalls to avoid, when they're trying to do it.
I think one of the things that's always worked for me, and my mom said this to me when I was very young, she told me you should never close doors until you absolutely have to. And that's manifested into this, like, don't really ever say no unless you really need to say no, and I'm a yes person, probably to a fault, but I think it's helped me get to where I am because I was never afraid to take the job that maybe nobody else wanted, or dance for free for that person when other people felt it was below them. Those kinds of like saying yes to a lot of different kinds of opportunities and worlds really helped me in my career. And then on the second part of it is like showing up, showing up on time, having a good attitude. I just think having a good attitude and like enjoying what you're doing goes so far in this business, and people really underestimate it. Like you were just saying, I really like talking to you guys. This is fun because if we were ever going to work together, I want to feel like we have a connection. Like there's something cool that you're not going to come into work one day and just be like,
right.
Like, you like to do what you do, right? You have passion for it. And I think a lot of people forget along the way to like keep that passion and that joy about what you're doing, because that will get you so far.
It really will. That's a fantastic advice. I mean, we strive on that. It's like even on our worst day, look for the one good thing that happened that day and focus there, because there's always something good that happens. So
for sure. And there's always moments where it's like not great and you get told no, or someone tells you you suck or whatever. But it's like, you have to, in the end of it, just go like, okay, well, I'm doing my best and I'm just going to truck right along. And then like, hey, you do you, boo. I'll do me. So
yes.
You do you, boo. That's a t-shirt.
Exactly. Right there.
Well, and of course we have to bring up, it's all about social media and we want everybody to follow you, and your social media name is fantastic. So,
I love that you even understood it.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, Mandy Moore, come on, what's not to understand, right? It's brilliant.
Thank you.
So go ahead and tell everybody where they can follow you.
Yeah, they can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Nope Not Her. It looks like Nope Another or something.
It certainly does. It does.
It's Nope Not Her.
So
and you'll see a weird little verified check. It is me. It's not the other Mandy Moore. So, yeah.
So great.
I loved it so much. We're putting it on the graphic for the show. Like, Nope Not Her. Yeah, it's so good.
Oh my goodness.
Thanks.
But thank you so much for taking some time out of your day during your quarantine day to come and have a fun conversation with us. We really enjoyed it.
Yeah, this is so nice to chat with people, and like, thank you guys for being fans. It really means a lot. We really love the show. So thank you for watching.
Oh, anytime, and more than welcome. Open invite. Anytime you want to come back to talk about the show or just to shoot the shit, or, we'll discuss the 80s. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Open invite.
Guys. Yeah, and I'm pretty free right now, so I'm pretty into it. So whatever you want to do, I'm down.
We'll have an 80s movie night. It'll be fantastic.
Right, or we do like a top 5 segment on each one of our episodes. Maybe it could be like top 5 80s movies or something.
That's brilliant.
Yes, I would love that. I'm totally in. We are 80s kids, so let's do it.
Fantastic. Listen, have a great rest of the week. Have a great weekend and everything,
Thank you.
and we'll talk to you soon, okay?
See ya.
Okay, bye.
Wow, that was so much fun.
Yeah, she's just like us, man. She's
know.
just fun. She's so full of energy
And passionate about what she does. Literally every word that came out of her mouth was just so full of passion, energy, and just like ready to work on something else. Like, I love it.
Yeah, me too. Like the Energizer Bunny.
Yeah,
she was just like constantly going, know, and you need that.
Exactly.
You need that in this industry, and just the whole process. Though, great question about how it all comes together, and it's really interesting to hear how she puts it together.
Yeah.
And how the storytelling has become so much a part of it.
Exactly.
It's really fun to listen to. Great first choreographer.
Right? Exactly. She takes the title. She takes the reign.
She
does. Oh my
does.
goodness. Thank you again, Mandy Moore. Not that Mandy Moore, for coming on the show.